I'm Madeline from Madberry Crochet, and today we're going to get started working on our star pillows. Now, for any project, first thing you need is the tools. I used 100 grams of weight 4 yarn for this project, as well as a 4mm hook, but you can use any yarn and any corresponding hook. I also used scissors, stitch markers. I recommend getting at least 5, but you really only need 1, and stuffing. Now we can start working on our magic ring. To start, we only need the yarn, the hook, and a stitch marker. To make the magic ring, you're going to grab the yarn, loop one side over the other, and then reach your fingers through the loop to pull the short side of the yarn through the loop. This is how you start any magic circle. Now, I pulled the short string just a little bit to tighten it up so it's a little easier to work with. Now, to hold it, you want to grab the twisty part. I put it between my middle finger and thumb, and then use my pointer finger for tension. To start working into the circle, first insert your hook, then pull yarn back through, and then yarn over and pull through the loop on your hook. And that makes a chain, not a stitch. For the first actual stitch, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into the circle, yarn over, go back through the circle, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. This is the first stitch. Now, here's where you're really going to want that stitch marker. Make sure to put it in the first stitch and not the chain. This way we can keep track of the official start of this round. Now, for this particular magic circle, we're using half double crochets, which is why we had to yarn over so many times. And in total, we're going to put 9 half double crochets into the magic ring. So once again, we're going to yarn over, go into the circle, yarn over, pull back through, yarn over, pull through the 3 loops. We're going to repeat this process until we have 9 half double crochets in the magic ring. And if you're actually watching what I'm doing here, you're going to notice I forget to yarn over the first time a few times. Don't do what I did. Yarn over, go through the circle, yarn over, go back through the circle, yarn over, pull through 3. Don't skip that first yarn over. Now, once you have 9 stitches on the hook, make sure to count them so that you have enough. I miscounted, so don't actually count mine. You're going to pull the short string very gently until the ring closes all the way. You want to make sure it's super tight so it doesn't open back up. To start the second round, where we're going to make 9 increases, we're going to start by making a half double crochet into the stitch with the stitch marker. And we're going to make sure to grab the short string and add it into the stitch so that magic circle stays tight. Once you make that first half double crochet, we're going to take out our stitch marker and then put it in the stitch we just made. This is the start of round 2. Now, since this round is all increases, we're going to put another half double crochet in the same stitch we just put the first half double crochet in. Then we're going to continue putting 2 half double crochets in each stitch until we reach the stitch marker. Once you're in the stitch before the stitch marker, you're going to make your final increase and then count to make sure you have 18 stitches in this round. And you always want to start counting on the stitch marker stitch and then stop counting on the stitch before. To start round 3, we're going to put a half double crochet in the stitch with the stitch marker. We're going to take the stitch marker out and put it in the stitch we just made. Now for this round, instead of only increasing, we're going to do 1 half double crochet, then 1 increase. So 1 stitch with 1 half double crochet, and then the next stitch will have 2 half double crochets. We're going to repeat this pattern 9 times or until we get back to the stitch marker, and then you should have 27 total stitches by the time you get back to the stitch marker. Oh dear. Once again, make sure to count to make sure you have 27 stitches, starting with the stitch marker stitch, ending with the one before the stitch marker. Now we're going to start row 4 the same way we started the other rows, by making our first half double crochet into the stitch with the stitch marker, taking out the stitch marker and replacing it into the stitch we just made, which marks stitch 1 of round 4. For this round, we're going to be making 2 half double crochets and then an increase. And you're going to repeat that pattern of 2 half double crochets and then an increase all the way around until we get back to the stitch marker. For this round, you're going to want to go back and count to make sure you have 36 total stitches. Once again, starting counting from the stitch marker, ending on the stitch before that. Start row 5, you guessed it, we're going to half double crochet into the stitch with the stitch marker, replace the stitch marker, and put it into the stitch we just made, and then start the pattern for row 5, which is 3 half double crochets and then an increase. Now, you might notice I forgot the increase. Don't do what I did. Make 3 double crochets and then an increase. Don't just half double crochet like I did. When you finish this row, you should have 45 stitches. Now, on screen, I'm going to put the next 5 rows. Round 6 has 4 half double crochets and then an increase. You're going to want to have 54. Round 7 has 5 half double crochets, then an increase. You want to have 36 stitches, and so on and so on. You're going to repeat this until you finish round 10. Once you finish round 10, you're going to want to put a stitch marker every 18 stitches. That way we can make 5 points that are the same length. For the point of the star, we're going to be working in rows instead of in rounds. So we'll be turning the work and going back and forth instead of just working in a continuous circle. To start the first point, you're going to want to half double crochet 18 times, starting in the first stitch marker until the stitch before the next stitch marker, or just 18 stitches if you're not using the extra stitch markers. For the first stitch you make, you're going to want to replace the stitch marker into that new stitch so that we know to stop after the turn of the row, which will make sense in a second. In the meantime, make those 18 half double crochets. Once we've made the 18 half double crochets, or we've made it to the stitch before the next stitch marker, and you've counted to make sure you have 18 half double crochets, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. So basically flip it over. To start this row, we're going to skip the first stitch, not including the chain, and make a half double crochet in the second stitch from the hook. This row will have 17 half double crochets total, with the last stitch being the one with the stitch marker in it. Once you reach the stitch marker and you've counted the 17 stitches, you're going to chain 1 and flip your work. Once again, we're going to be skipping that first stitch, not counting the chain, and then make 16 half double crochets in this row. Once you reach the end of this row and count all 16 stitches, chain 1, turn your work, skip the next stitch, not counting that chain, and then make 15 half double crochets in this row. You're going to continue the process of chaining 1 at the end of each row, turning the work, skipping a stitch, and then making 1 less half double crochet, and do this in each row until you only have 1 or 2 stitches left to work into. And if you want to make sure you're doing it right, just check the edges of the star. They should be a pretty smooth diagonal. If not, you might want to go back and recount your stitches. Once there are only 1 or 2 stitches left, we're going to be slip stitching down the side. You want to make sure you're heading in the direction of where your next point is supposed to be going. Typically this is where there's an empty space, but if this is your first one, it's okay if it goes in the wrong direction as long as all the other ones go in the correct direction. For the slip stitches, you are going to stab your hook into any open area. It doesn't have to be perfect, and then you are going to pull the yarn through and then all the way through the loop without yarning over. You're going to do this all the way down the side. Like I said, there isn't a set number of stitches that needs to be. It just needs to go down the edge, basically. Once you're done going down the side, you're going to start your next point, but I recommend rewinding the video so you can follow all the steps again, starting with the 18 half double crochets. Once you're done with the first star, you're going to want to chain 1 and then pull that loop through after you cut the yarn so you make a knot, and then start the second star. After the second star, you are not going to want to fasten off. To make the second star, I would recommend just rewinding the video so you can follow all of the same instructions, and then come back here. Once you have both stars and you didn't fasten off on the second one, we're going to line the stars up with the bad sides facing towards each other, and the bad sides are the sides with the tails, so we want the tails facing each other and the nice sides on the outside. Then we're going to line up the stars, grab our hook, and start sewing them together or crocheting them together. To do this, you're going to want to start in the valley between 2 points, which is where your yarn should be at the moment, and you're going to stick your hook through both of the stars and then make a single crochet, which you can do by yarning over, pulling through, and then yarning over and pulling through both of the loops on your hook. Similar to how we did the slip stitch, these do not have to be perfect. You're going to keep making single crochets up and down each of the stars until you get all the way around the star. Now, when you're doing this, you're going to want to make sure you're stuffing each point after you finish it. That way you don't forget to stuff it before you sew it shut. After I do a couple of the single crochets, I turn it inside out just to double check that it's actually closed, and then I'll go back to making those single crochets. After you get a point done, you're going to want to start stuffing it. I didn't start stuffing until I had my first 3 done, but I wish I started it sooner. I just forgot. I recommend ripping up the stuffing a little bit before you put it in there, just so it sits a little bit nicer in the pillow. And you're going to want to make sure you get the stuffing all the way into the point of each star so there aren't any flat parts in it. Feel free to massage the pillow, swish it around until your pillow feels just right. Then after you're finished stuffing each point, continue sewing down the star. When you get to the last point, make sure not to close it all the way before you stuff it. I've done that. It's not my favorite to undo it. Once again, just make sure you're getting all the way up into that point and making sure the rest of the pillow is fully filled out before you sew the rest of the star closed. Once it's stuffed to your liking, you can finish making the single crochets down the last edge of the pillow. This is my least favorite part because it's the hardest to work with the pillow because it's all the way stuffed. When you reach that very last stitch, you're going to want to get as close to the first stitch as you can before slip stitching into the first stitch you made. And to fasten off, you're going to chain 1, cut the yarn, and then pull all the way through to make a knot. With the leftover string, you can either weave it in or just shove it inside the pillow. Nobody will know the difference. And there you go. Now you have a really cute star pillow to add for your decor. Hopefully this tutorial was easy enough to follow. If it was or wasn't, please let me know in the comments so I can adjust. And subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.